Hello everyone, how you doing today? I'm Steve G for Steve G Fishing, and welcome to another one of my videos. Well, today's video we're going to talk about bass fishing in the cooler weather and what temperatures of the water and depth you're going to be looking for. So let's go ahead and get started on the video. We're in the month of October and those temperatures are starting to drop. We're starting to get into the low 60s to 59 degrees, and those bass are starting to get really excited. They're getting in their comfort zone. They're chasing the bait fish. They're running all over the place. So you can keep using those baits, whatever you're using, and throwing out there to get those bass, but stay strong on that. And you want to make sure that you stay in that water temperature of 65 to 75 degrees. Remember, 65 to 75 degrees when we're staying in that weather temperature where we're 59 to 65. Now, as that weather starts progressing into the warmer air where we start pushing out 75, 80 degrees, 85 degrees, you want to stay in that 2 to 4 foot mark. That's where those bass are going to be very active. Now, as we start dropping and we stay at the 59, 58 degree temperatures, those bass are going to start going a little bit deeper where they're going to be going from the 2 to the 20 foot mark. So keep that in mind. Now, when the temperatures start dropping to 55, 50 degrees, those bass are going to start moving less, and I recommend that you start going to your plastics. When you're reeling those plastics in, don't reel them in fast. Reel them in as slow as you can. As we start getting into those cooler temperatures, those bass are going to stay stationary to where they're not going to want to move as much. They're not going to want to dart out 20 feet after a bait fish. They might dart out at 4 foot at the most, but you want to get that bait as close as you can in front of them to where you can get that action strike. Now, as we get into the cooler months, remember the water temperature you want to stay at is 45 degrees to 55 degrees. As we start getting into the 55 degree temperatures, the 50 or the 49 degree temperatures. But once that temperature starts rising and we start getting back into the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, you want to stay at that water temperature of 65 to 75 degree temperatures. And as it gets warmer, they're going to be in that 2 to 20 foot mark. Remember, 2 to 20 foot is when it's from 58 all the way up till it gets warm again. But if that temperature starts dropping below 55 to 50 to 49, those fish are going to start going deeper and they're not going to be feeding as much. They're going to be more stationary. So I recommend as we get into the cooler months that you go into the plastic baits. And remember, when you work those plastic baits, you want to work them slowly. Don't work them fast because those bass won't be active. They want to jump out there as quick as can. They're going to be biting that bait slow. So remember, we get into the warmer months, you can run those anything bait you're throwing out, whether it's a topwater, crankbait, or worm, you're good. And stay in that 2 to 20 foot mark. And you want to stay at that 65 degree to 75 degree temperatures. But as that weather starts to cool, that water temperature starts to cool too. Once you get below that 55 to 50 or 48 degrees, those bass are going to start eating slower. They're not going to be eating as much. They're going to get sluggish. And so you want to work those plastic baits as slow as you can and try to get those baits as close as you can to the fish. Well, that's all I have for you. If you ever get a chance, take a kid fishing. They are our future. And get out there and get you a big one. I'm Steve G for Steve G Fishing. God bless, and I hope to see you on my next video.